All right, we're live streamed. All right, guys. Jeff was in here first, so we'll start with him. Jeff, what do you got for us, man?
Well, I got three LOIs out of four already accepted. And
Wow, look at this guy.
yeah, I just signed up the other day, yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
So I just dove in and sent a lot of them out, a few days ago actually. And now I'm not so sure if, they're good deals or not. I think they are. I've been running numbers, and expenses. I've got lot rents and whether they're park-owned homes or tenant-owned homes and expenses and stuff like that. Um, One of them is in a really I've been in real estate 30 years, okay? And I've never seen a population in a county. Well, this is a city for one of the LOIs so small, but it comes with 12 units, and 22 acres. And I called the zoning committee and they said that I could probably expand the park because it's not really zoned, but there's only 150 people in the city. And, but in the county, there's 82,000 people. So, to have affordable housing in the area for people to go out, and it's only a few minutes from, less than 20 or 30 minutes from some of the major parts of the county for the cities. I was thinking that might actually be a good deal. I don't know. So I'm going to go over that with you. I've got one property with 2 acres additional, down in Columbia, South Carolina, that's off market. The guy called me and we started talking and we went back and forth. He's got 12 park-owned homes and I called the zoning. They changed the zoning. That one's grandfathered in. I can't build any more mobile home parks, but I can build three quads on each acre, which excites me. Um, and pretty much I'm getting into that property for nothing. Well, all of them doesn't cost me any money out of pocket.
All right, Jeff, I need you to select one of the three parks you have under LOI because we do have
Right.
probably like 12 people joining this call. So
Okay.
what I would say is we got to kind of dig into one of them, one of the three. We can't do all three, just because we have to kind of give equal time here. If you do want to join our group mentorship program, then we'll give you like a half hour to 40 minutes, and we'll do all your deals at once. But for these calls specifically, kind of just have to dig into one. So which is your favorite? And then let's dive straight into that right away, just so we don't run up on other people's time as well.
Okay. Well, let's do the one in Columbia because that one, the guy says, that basically because he lives in Maryland, he's got an amazing uh, pro property manager, and it's completely hands off for him.
All
And
right, let's do that then. Why don't you send me any of the details you have already, whether that's an OM or even like a rent roll, or if you don't have any of that stuff, we could just kind of wing it. But if you have any details about these parks, send it over to me, and we can dive into that now. I'll pull up a 5 minute deal evaluator for us, and we can take a look at this in the meantime.
let me do this one. Hold on. I've got a T12 and I have a rent roll.
All
Uh,
right, T12 and a rent roll work perfect. Let's start with a 5 minute deal evaluator, and then we can level up later.
all right. And I ran all kinds of scenarios, um, through ChatGPT, like a whole bunch of them. So,
All right. All right, let's start here.
All right.
So why don't you send over, do you have a link to that T12?
I do. Um, Hold on a second. Let's see. Chat. So do I, how do I send it directly to you?
You can either send it to me on school or you can
Oh,
send it to here in the chat,
okay.
however you decide.
Okay. So just click host and panelists.
Yes, sir.
Okay. T12. And let me pull up this one. This, I think, is the rent walls.
All right, let me see if it's in the chat here.
Okay. All right, just send them both to you.
Cool. I got to request access for both here.
Oh, you have to request access.
I've got the rent roll here, so let's start there.
All
All
right.
right, so it looks like these are all POH, correct?
Um, I believe so.
Because if they're not all POH, these are very good lot rents. This is above average. So I doubt that
No,
they're
these are all POH, and I want to turn them in, all of them in TOH
okay.
and owner finance them all out.
Let me do this. We'll copy this over to your 5 minute deal evaluator here. Call this rent roll. All right, now let's do an average.
And just so you know, the T12 has the address, and I don't know if you want to show that or not.
I don't think you want to show
Yeah.
it. So we won't.
Okay.
But I don't think everyone on this call is going to seal your deal. It's possible.
Yeah.
All right, 873 is the average lot rent here, or sorry, is the average total rent. So we'll put this in here for 873. And let's just take half of it for now until we figure out what the market lot rent is. Okay, and then we'll do that now. Actually, want to move this here as well. Let's go to the HUD website. I do need the county of the area this is in.
Richland.
Richland, Richland in,
Richland,
sorry,
South Carolina.
South. Got it.
And I can tell you, do you want me to go
Richland.
over the rates on the owner financing and the DSCR loan?
I think I absolutely do want you to do that, but just give me a second here while we fill
Sure.
out the rest of the data. We're definitely going to need that though. So, guys, what I like to do here is I like to find for everyone actually watching, I like to go to the fair market rent documentation on the HUD website and just grab what the two bedroom lot rent is. Or sorry, not this isn't lot rent. This is just the average rent for a two bedroom. And I'm pasting it in here via a screenshot. And I'm just going to take what the average lot rent is, 246. And I'm going to divide it by two. This is really back of the napkin. And the reason it's back of the napkin is if you live in a densely populated county, like Bergen, and like the Bergen County where I grew up, which is right next to the city, if you go from town to town, I can tell you that there's going to be a lot of differences in the lot rent or in the rent, I should say. So we can't take face value what the HUD average is across any given county at this point. If you have a, especially if you have like a really densely populated county, you should be kind of diving into Zillow or Rentcast or some of these other types of services that are going to give you a more accurate indication of what the two bedroom rent is. It sounds like when Jeff tells us about this park that it's very rural. He's at 125 people. Is that what you said?
No, not this one. That's an
Oh, okay.
this
Either way, either
alone.
way, just make sure you're also diving in a little bit more. This is a good back of the napkin, but that means so that we have $623 in lot rent based on like, sorry, this is market lot rent, 623. We don't know what this is right now, but that's what we're trying to do here, right? Is get to our market lot rent. So we're just taking 2024, dividing it by two, and that is probably around what we can charge based on comps in the area too. You know, that if there's really nice multifamily units that are higher quality and they're charging 1240 and you got a crappy mobile home park, then you might not even be able to get that. So you just have to make sure that you're doing your comparables, you're doing a rent market study, which we cover in the course. All of these things combined are really going to help you kind of dial in what your lot rent can be. So anyway, moving on here, do they have a listed lot rent or just just these unit rents here?
You know what? My fault. I didn't even ask him.
Okay, that's a good follow-up. You should find out what the lot rent is, right? Because when you go and sell these homes off, that's what you're going to be able to charge, or maybe a little bit more. So, but if I'm looking at these right now and I see 873, then their lot rent typically is half of that, so 436. So we'll leave that as is for now. And then as we move down here, this is what this is doing in the stabilization inputs, is it's saying your market lot rent in the 5 years is going to take you to stabilize. That's a lot of time. We'll probably decrease that to three. Is going to be 681, and this is just stabilize it, or it's growing your market lot rent by 3% over the course of every year. So you can change this if you think rent growth will be higher. You can change it to five, and you'll see your market lot rent go up down here. But I like to keep it at three just to be conservative. And so that means that in year three, your market lot rent, if this is true, that it is 623 right now, will be 681. And so you could raise rents maybe to around that over time. So let's say you get to 650 or something like that, which is 14% annually. And that is, let's see how much that is. From 436 is about, $200 over a 3-year period. That's probably doable. You could raise $75 a year or something like that. That's probably the upper end of what I would raise it, 75 a year. And then, every year you see if you're getting massive turnover, if there's a lot of pushback, all those things. So that's kind of how we look at rents, by the way. And then in terms of total rent, you can grow it the same. You can grow it, this is a 4.6% increase in total rent here. That's what a CAGR is, compound annual growth rate, which means how much is it growing annually. So I think that's probably fair. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depends on how the market's growing and if it can bear an additional lot rent there. This also won't matter if you plan on turning these homes over to totally TOH, and we'll talk about that now as we go through the site occupancy status. So it looks like it is 100% POH, and there are 13 units, one that's completely vacant. Is that correct?
Correct.
All
And
right.
he says that within a couple weeks it'd be totally revamped or rehab.
Cool. So what I'm doing here is I'm just separating them between their site occupancy. So we have revenue occupied homes of 12, vacant park owned homes of one, right? So that's all that the breakout is. There's no RVs here and there's no vacant lots. Unless I'm missing something. Are there any vacant lots?
No, on
Okay.
this one there's not.
Great. So then we go into rent. It looks like there might be a list of expenses here. Is that correct?
Right there. Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do 300, 653, 250, 390, and 444 equals the sum of these equals this times 12. Okay, so it looks like we got $24,000 a year and then property management. So what's property management? It is the gross of this times 12 times looks like 8%. So that's another 10,000. So the sum of those two is 34,000. We'll reference that in here. So let's go here and go back to rent roll and click that. And now we're at $34,000 a year. Is there any expense recovery? Are they billing back any water to these tenants? Are they doing anything like that?
He has not told me. I think that'd be part of my DD.
Okay, sounds good.
And okay, he just answered me. Lot rents are at 450,
Hey, there we go. So we were right on the money there, or just
and he's
about.
saying they can be raised.
Cool. All right, let's move down here and just kind of mimic this. Although let's try moving all of these until onto tenant-owned homes, and we'll leave the rest as is. We'll come back to this as soon as we're done with the acquisition inputs. So, what's going on with the acquisition? What are you going to pay for this thing?
Um, we agreed on 950.
Okay.
Okay.
And what are the terms for the seller financing?
Okay. So the first is a DSCR loan. Um, I gotta look it up. Hold on a minute. DSCR loan at 7.5% for, let me see where it is. I know I sent it to him.
What
Hold
do
on.
you mean by DSCR loan?
Debt service cover ratio loan.
Sure. Okay, but is that constrained by DSCR? I've never heard the term DSCR loan. Just is there a constraint of a certain debt service coverage that you need to achieve? Is it like 1.25% or
Usually 1.25.
okay.
Okay. Um, let me,
So your debt service is capped or your LTV is capped at a DSCR of 125. Is
right.
that right? Okay. For those listening in while he's kind of getting the terms together, DSCR is your debt service coverage ratio. And typically, banks also want to see a 125 at a minimum when you're going for lending. They also typically want to see a 125 on lot rent only, right? So that's this top section here. And we have a lot of newcomers on this call, so I'm just kind of walking through this for a lot of beginners as well, right? This home rent section looks great. We're hitting a 138.
Okay.
Um, you know,
So I've got all the numbers now. I'm sorry. Purchase price is 975.
okay, 975.
Um, I would be putting down 5.25, and they would be holding 450 at 3% amortized over 30 years for 7 years, balloon. And I just have to pay him 1,500 a month for the next 7 years.
All right, let's go through that again because I was trying to figure out. So you're putting down it's a 95% LTV loan. Your interest rate is what?
Well, it's actually 100%. So I'm taking out the DSCR loan, and then I am borrowing the balance. Yeah, he's owner financing 100% of the balance.
So
So
what's
it's
your down payment?
nothing, zero.
Okay. Okay. So I don't think I've ever seen this before. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Well, I'm
Um,
very creative. So all the parks that I can buy, if they do like 40 to 50, basically 50, actually 50 to 60% owner financing, I can get them for zero out of pocket.
okay. So let's walk through like what your actual monthly payment is here. How are you determining that? You said it's a DSCR loan.
Okay.
What interest rate are you paying on that 100% loan?
Okay. On the DSCR loan, I am paying 7.5% for 525,000.
Okay, so it's 525,000 and then times 7.5% annualized equals
Correct.
this divided by 12. Okay, so you're paying 3,200 a month.
Correct.
Okay. What anything else?
Yeah. The balance of 450,000 is at 3% with a 7 year balloon, but a 30-year M. But we had agreed on 1,500 a month for the next 7 years. but that's principal and interest. That's not interest only.
Okay, just real quick here. So the balance of 450 divided by 975, because now we're talking about AM. So if it's not interest only, I just got to drop this in here. So that's 46% or so. And you're paying, what was the amount? What was the 3%
3%
and a 30-year AM?
at a 30-year out. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now, guys, like this is a little bit of a creative financing situation. So, like, this is going outside of the realm of this specific model, just so you're aware. We're basically going to have to add in this additional monthly debt service of 3,281 on top of what Jeff is paying here on a monthly basis for the principal and interest of the balance here that he's charging them. So just one second here while we add in into the debt service plus this amount here, which is 39. That looks good to me. Or it's actually minus, sorry. All right, so coming down here, I think that's correct. You tell me if I'm wrong here. Jeff, you're gonna have TOH gross revenue of 64,000, which is just your $450 of lot rent times your 12 economically occupied lots. You have no expense reimbursement. That flows down here. We're not going to look at the lot rent performance here because it's frankly not that important. All that you guys need to know right now is that if he were to run this park as a lot rent only park, it wouldn't work. You
It
can see
would.
here he has negative cash on cash return and debt service coverage of half the loan value. So doesn't or
Okay.
half the loan debt service. So it's not going to work. So that's why we come down here and we look at the home rent portion. This is obviously all revenue occupied park owned homes. So this is where the meat and potatoes of this deal is going to come from. And hopefully, when he goes to refi down the line, it's also based on lot rent. He can get a DSCR loan. So let's take a look at what the outputs are here. These expenses look right to you. We talked about this together. The debt service, 62,000. Is that what you previously calculated there, Jeff?
Here, I'll tell you right now. Wait a minute. Let's see.
Yeah, if it's just roundabout, that's fine. So we can keep moving through this. And then not that's a
Yeah.
9.4 cap, which is good. And then cash on cash turn of 5.4%, which is not great. But at least you're covering your debt service pretty significantly here.
Well, I look at it, I'm also looking at it this way. It's not really costing me anything to get involved. And the value add to me is building the three quads on each acre, which if I have to sell them, I can, because that'd give me significant equity. Then that'd make this easy for me to refinance. Take the seller out. And
Jeff, I was mistaken by the way, because the I was had a down payment in here, which you don't have. So it's 100% financed. So your cash on cash return is just based on like whatever closing costs and year one capex you put into the deal. It's basically 100% profit outside of,
right.
yeah. So I mean, just do it. It's
Okay.
seller finance too. I'm honestly not sure why the seller is even doing this. Like, let's be real. All the risk is his. You don't have any down payment placed, right? So this is one of the most creative solutions I've ever seen to make a deal happen. This seller is taking all the risk because worst case, you default and he just takes back possession of the park and you don't even have a down payment
But
to give him, right?
well, I told one of the other sellers of a park today that they should hope that I fail and they take it back because they get 40-50% of the money up.
Yeah, that's
So,
fair. Yeah,
no,
that's not a bad point. But in this case, you have no skin in the game, right?
right.
So he's definitely, I mean, he definitely wants out. I've never seen a buyer this excited to get rid of his park. So that I would take that with a massive grain of salt and see what's going on here. Because, I mean, I guess you're paying down the balance over time. So theoretically, he's doing nothing and accumulating income.
Correct.
Although a big piece of it here, you said there's a balloon payment in year 7 for that
Year seven.
DSCR. Okay. All right. Well, he's getting something for doing nothing. So that's nice. Won't the Travis ask Travis, why don't you come on? Why don't you unmute yourself and ask that question live?
Yeah, I was just going to ask in this scenario, won't the seller be in a second place lien? So, like
Yes.
you said, all the risks. So that if
Yeah.
the loan was
He would be in
foreclosed on by
second
the
place.
bank, they would take possession, right? And the seller would have nothing?
That is possible if I were to fail. Then he would have to pay off the DSCR loan. But he knows he's going to be in second position. I'm very upfront with them. I even tell them, look, I'm brand new in this space. I'm just getting into mobile home parks. This is what I'm going to do. And you're going to be in second position. You have to take owner financing. Are you okay with that? And he said, yeah. So I said, okay. He goes, just pay off what I owe, which is five and a quarter. And because that he borrowed hard money for. So I know he got this park really inexpensively because it was a C park that he made into a B park.
Nice.
Yeah. And so he's saying even, look, I have a great property manager and it's completely hands off for me and my partners. And so I'm figuring for my first park, if I get into something and I don't have to do as much, um, then it would be a good deal.
And I didn't realize that this DSCR loan was external to him. I thought you were doing these two loans without putting or sorry, that he was holding the paper for both loans and just wanted a different rate for,
No,
two pieces. So it sounds like he is getting paid by the first DSCR loan.
five and a quarter.
Yeah, so he'll be fine. He's getting the balance, right? Like they're lending you that amount to pay to him.
They're lending me five and a quarter that
Yeah. So he
that
gets five and a quarter right off the
get
bat.
to
That's
him.
why he's
Yeah.
happy. I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just have to, I have not, Travis, written the agreement yet. That's why I'm on this call and I joined this also is so that I can get, access to a good mobile home park agreement because I'm sure the ones you have two, one that's a little bit pro buyer and one a little bit pro seller, whether you're
Uh,
buying or
in
selling.
this program, we got a pro buyer one,
Okay.
but hopefully by the time you go and sell, you've got enough cash to pay a good attorney to strike a lot of the buyer's
Right.
representations.
Okay.
Uh,
And since I'm buying, that's
yeah, that's good for
great.
you.
I mean,
Come back to us when you're selling. We'll find you one.
yeah,
Um,
I'll worry about that later. I'm not going to sell for years.
that's good. All right. So I think I would do this deal given just I mean, you have nothing to lose, right?
Right.
I don't know. I've never seen 100% finance park where you don't have to put down a dime. So I'm just baffled and I love it. And I want to see you go through with this. And I'm sure everyone else on the call wants to see you accomplish this as well. So um, let's get it done, man. I don't even have to go through the stabilization inputs here. I mean, let's go through them just for the exercise.
Sure.
But like this cash on cash return is kind of useless at this point because every dollar that you get is
It's a
like
hundred.
is like yeah, 100% cash on
Well,
cash
it's
return,
infinite.
right? Melissa goes, "How did you find this deal?" Let's hear the answer to that question.
I honestly, last week, now, before I get into it, 3 weeks ago, I decided I was going to get in mobile home space. That's it. 3 weeks ago. I've been doing single family stuff for about 30 years. And I said, well, I'm going to get in mobile home space because there's a huge affordability problem. And I'm not going to lie, I want to make some money too, but I do care about lower income to offer that to people. So I went to a couple sites. I think it was Facebook. And I just posted and I told him, hey, you know, I'm going to put down this much money. You have to own your finance this much, or this percentage. I'm going to put down this percentage. You have to finance this percentage and let me know if anybody's interested. And like within 5 minutes, he he instant messaged me and we had a conversation that day for about an hour. And then we had another back and forth the next day. Then I put together an LOI after running numbers on chat because I didn't have access to this or didn't know about it. And I went, you know what, based on these numbers and what I'm doing, yeah, the return sucks, to put it mildly. But I'm looking at the add-on of the 2 acres that come with the park.
So
So,
I don't know like how closely you should look at that in terms of building out mobile home parks, right? Because it's going to
well,
cost you
no, I
money
can't.
to do it.
I can't build a mobile home park because I called the county and they said, look, we changed zoning. It has to be 5 acres. You don't qualify. And I said, well, what do I qualify for? And they said, well, you can build up to 12 units. And I said, so
Okay.
I can put 3, 4 units per acre. And she said, absolutely. And I said, okay. And that's what got me excited because I figured I would build in phases. That's 24 units. Um, and I could sell off each acre because they're all separate. It's already separated, subdivided. So I can sell that off and then I can refi the park. And I've got nothing in, I put more cash in my pocket.
Yeah, I mean, listen, development is a totally different animal. Multi-development's a totally different animal. So I
It
won't
is.
cover that piece here, but you could for sure use the cash flow from this park to reinvest in a development project out there, assuming that the market supports that thesis. And yeah, like I would look at this as a standalone deal before considering the development piece. And the one thing I would say here is that you're paying $75,000 per physically occupied lot right now. Um, and that is a very high price to pay.
Okay.
So
I
just
mean,
be
I don't
be
have
aware
a
of that.
problem. I don't have a problem, Michael, going back to him going, look, I ran more numbers. I talked to more people. I can't offer you 975. I have to offer you 875, something like that. I mean, I have no problem going back to a person. I'm not married to any one park. I could care less.
How did you get to 875?
No, I was just throwing out a number. I have,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, he's definitely gonna be excited about that because, like even 875, like you should be paying, this is like a tertiary market.
Hmm.
Yeah, you should be paying like probably 45 a lot or less. Like I'm just looking at the 100x rule here, like your purchase price should be $540. Now you can jack this up a little bit if you wanted to. And typically, why we jack it up over the 100x rule is if we're talking about major economies of scale. So if you have like a lot of lots, like 100 lots, okay, well, we can afford to pay a little bit more per lot potentially, because the expense ratio might be less because you have economies of scale. If something breaks, there's less capex. But when you're talking about a park this small, you're going to want to pay kind of around the 100x rule, maybe even a little bit less, especially if it's in tertiary market.
Okay.
So he's
Now,
not going to be happy
what
about
do you
you
mean
going
by
back and offering
tertiary
him
market?
540. Say again.
But what do you, I'm sorry to talk here. What do you mean by tertiary market?
Okay, so primary would be, I can't speak to the numbers in terms of like the size, but just imagine like New York metro area, primary market, Houston, primary market, Miami, primary market, secondary market, Asheville, North Carolina. I don't know, like a major college hub, like State College, secondary market. Um, those types of markets that are maybe even Buffalo, call it a secondary market. That might, in terms of like Mobile home parks, secondary markets sometimes become primary markets. So it differs in many cases for mobile home parks. But then a tertiary market would be extremely rural.
Oh,
Like,
no, this is right, I believe, in the city limits or right on the outskirts. Columbia itself is about 143,000 people.
oh, it's Columbia North. It's Columbia, South Carolina.
South
Is that
Florida.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. No, I've heard of that market. So it's not super tertiary. It sounds like it's more of secondary to me.
Okay.
So, with that in mind, you could pay at or slightly above the 100x rule, but you have to think of your exit here. And this is a lesson I learned recently. I was looking at a tiny home community. They wanted to offer me a $2 million seller carry note on top of like what I deemed to be the purchase price, which was like 5.5. So they wanted 7.5 with a $2 million seller carry note at a 1% interest only that would escalate to 5% over 5 years, which made the deal work, frankly. The cash flow was there. The deal penciled from like a cash flow and IRR standpoint at that value. The more I thought about it, though, when I looked at what my exit value was, my basis was now 7.5, right? Instead of 5.5. And the only reason I was going to accept that deal was because I could make the numbers work at that financing. But didn't really stand on fundamentals, meaning like I shouldn't have been paying that price per pad. And the reason that the deal fell through for me is because I realized that I was like, like I'd love to pay you 7.5. I know you want to, in this case, they wanted to exit at 7.5 to prove concept for their tiny home developments. But I can't abide by that. So I'll pay you cash 5.5. I'm not going to take your $2 million seller financing. And the deal went to somebody else at 6. But I felt comfortable not going past 5.5 because I think the next buyer is not going to want to pay a 7.5 basis plus some appreciation that doesn't exist. So
Yeah.
that's what we need to look at here when we look at exit, right? It's like realistically, what can you exit at? We'll say in 5 years, you get this thing to $700 lot rent. Looking at the 100x rule as a base case, you could probably, sell this for 70,000 a pad, maybe. Again, like you might have trouble even getting there. I don't know. We have to kind of determine what the actual market lot rent is. So if we do a per lot valuation methodology here and say you did get it to $700 in lot rent, now all of a sudden, if you paid 875 for it, it looks like, you have a equity multiple of 3.5, equity created of, well, this equity multiple doesn't matter because you're not putting any equity in, but you're only making $35,000 from, what you initially paid. And that's if you sell it for 70,000 a lot in 5 years. So if we look at it on a cap rate basis, let's say you sell it at an 8 cap, you're making $80,000 over 5 years. Now, again, it doesn't necessarily matter because you're making so much cash flow in the meantime and potentially doing a development project. So I'm not sure like your exit value is that important to you, meaning like you're not looking for equity multiples or appreciation on this deal, but rather just like looking to collect some cash along the way with zero money down. So you can still afford to pay this high potential number, maybe go down to 800, see how low you can get him without insulting him.
Okay.
Because either way,
Oh, I
you're
don't mind
putting
insulting.
$0 down, right?
Yeah, I don't mind insulting them.
All right. Well, listen, like if we like an 8 cap is probably like the lowest you'll get for this on exit. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. Like it's a small park. Like people don't like paying low cap rates for smaller parks.
Right.
So, like that's what I'd be comfortable writing in as an exit cap, at the smallest. And so, that deems a 9-10 exit with all this additional income. That's not much more than you're paying for. In fact, you're paying more than that if you pay 975. So just keep that in mind. Or sorry, it's 955 in the exit cap here, but keep that in mind. I would try and like shoot for in the 700s. And then in 5 years, capture a $200,000 gain on the sale plus whatever cash flow you achieve along the way.
Okay. All right. So I should use this document for the other two I have, right?
Yes, or and that's what I was going to tell the group here. It's like this one has senior secured financing and second liens. So something like what you're building, if you have two loans that you want to model simultaneously, you could put them in here, and that will flow through the model. This is a little bit more of an advanced model, a couple more inputs, but ultimately it's basically the same. It's just outlined a little bit different. Those like in place stabilization and exit performance are here as well. They're just down here. And then those same exit metrics are here. But, this is really the more important piece that is created through this model, which is your deal returns, unlevered and levered. This is a different deal. Like we haven't modeled yours,
Right.
but, I would recommend just taking those inputs from here and putting them in here and then seeing what pops. Because you're going to want to look at this levered return. It actually might be zero because you're putting no money in, right? Like
Right.
this might shoot out an error, and at that point, just like make sure that in your equity needed, your down payment's going to be zero, right?
Right.
In your
Well, I can
closing,
always put 1% and
yeah,
for the
exactly.
sake of the model.
Or yeah, or just putting some like some higher closing costs so that the model sees, hey, he's got some money in the game, and this
Right.
way the IRR can calculate. For those of you listening who don't know like the IRR calculations, if you put in nothing at the beginning, then it doesn't know how to calculate a return. So just make sure if that does happen, you have these great kind of deals like Jeff here that you're putting in at least something negative at the outset so that the IRR can calculate, even if it's -$1. Now this will pop and be like $100,000 return. So just be careful about that because it's going to be inaccurate. But it is the case, right? Like if you put in $0, your returns are exponential. It's just every dollar you get back is 1,000,000% or whatever. So that's awesome, Jeff. I think you should definitely get a lower price just
Yeah.
because when we talk about basis and the next buyer, which is an important like thing to think about, we want to make sure that there's some um, there's some appreciation you can capture there as well. All
Okay.
right.
Where in the program is that form that you had the 10-minute deal
Yeah.
evaluation?
Here, let me pull this up so everyone can see real quick. If we go to school and we go to the classroom. It doesn't even have to go to the classroom. Everything is typically contained within the 30-day mobile home park course, unless you are operating already, in which case you can go to the operations course here. But the fastest way to find something like this would just be to type in like 10-minute pro forma in this case, or something like that. And then you'll see it's in the module 12 resources here and
Okay.
you can kind of get all of those individual models from here. So here's the 10-minute pro forma shotgun model. There's a little bit more of an extensive one here. The 30-minute pro forma will allow you to enter in your expenses individually, right? So this is more for when you're, in my opinion, it's more for when you're under contract because you can start itemizing your expenses and then sending that off to your banks and stuff like that. So I wouldn't worry about this yet. Take things literally as they're shown in the course, right? 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute evaluators, and then upgrade to the pro formas when you feel comfortable in those. But yeah, they're right in here in module 12 to answer your question as quickly as possible.
Okay.
And then in the resources section. And then the other thing that I wanted to show you, sorry. Actually, that is all I wanted to show you. It's just that search function there. Oh, yeah. So if you look at I'm going to do this for everyone on every call. So if I go to the mentorship folder here, this is like with a folder within 12 folders. So just give me a second here while I navigate to it. In the individual mentee folder section, if you have a deal reviewed, I will create a folder for you and then I will share that folder to you. So in your case, Jeff, what is your email address that you prefer me to send this to?
Info at IHS, that's Indigo Hotel Sierra Houses.com.
Like that?
Yes.
Cool. All right, so now you have access to your folder, and inside that, oh, doesn't look like you have a Google account. Do you have a Google address I can use instead?
Oh, I just set one up. Hold on. Um, yeah, let me do that. Wait a minute. Let me go over here. I just set it up because I've been following along with what you're doing. And I just set it up. It is MHP buyer 65 at gmail.com.
All right, mhpbuyer65 at gmail.com. I got you. You now have access to Jeffrey Richmond Mastermind folder. So just access that 5 minute
Okay.
deal review in from there, and then you can toggle the purchase price and any other inputs as you'd like, and just kind of shoot out what your offer should be. Jeff, I'm gonna skip to the next person, but I just want to say thank you for educating all of us on this incredibly lucrative seller financing situation you have here. That was incredibly enlightening. I don't think I've ever seen someone pull this off. Not that
Oh,
you've pulled it off yet. I'm excited to see you close on this thing.
I
So,
will pull a bunch off.
all right.
Real quick before you bounce, where do I find this folder at?
You should get an email shortly.
Okay.
And if you don't, if you go to your home on Drive, it should show up there under shared or shared with me. See that?
Okay.
All right. Jeff, I'm gonna move
Okay.
on to the next person. I know there's so many people on this call who had deals to review, so I don't know if we're gonna get to all of them today. But I know Travis sent me one a long time ago, so I'd like to look over that one right now. Travis, what's up, man? Are you on the call still?
I am, but I don't think I sent you one. All right,
Oh,
I could.
I'm thinking
You
of
have to give it to
Tyler. I
me.
think I'm thinking of Tyler. I'm sorry, Travis. Tyler, you sent me one. Tyler, you there? You on mute? Tyler Yedison. That's what I got. Hold on. Buckhorn MHP. Tyler, you there? I can't hear you if you're talking. All right, Tyler. Let me know if you.
No,
Hey, there
I
you are.
can't.
Did you figure it out?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Oh, dude, I'm scrambling. All right. So the
No
main
worries.
thing I wanted to ask
Yeah.
was if I'm doing a 5-year IO, after that IO is up and I refi, what does that look like? And so that's where I was kind of having trouble putting that into the calculator.
Which one were
Um,
you using, and do you have the calculator prepped?
no, I was trying to make my own based off what yours was looking like. And that's where I was getting tripped up was after the IO period, what it would look like.
Okay. Let's
Um,
jump in then. We can do another 5 minute, and I will create a folder
we
for
could
you.
do it quick, but
No, I'm sure. I mean, it's not, we don't have to do it quick. I can spend another 10 minutes after the call. But just give me a second here.
so I put a LOI at 1.4 million and they countered with 1.9, but I think I could get them to accept around 1.5 to 1.6.
Tyler, is it David or Yedison?
David's my middle name, but it's easier when I'm dealing with
I
like
hear you.
Americans.
All right. Damn Americans. All right. I'll put you as mastermind for now. We're going to get you on that group pretty soon, I can tell. Create Tyler Davidson or Yedison, Tyler David for short. All right. Let's create a 5 minute deal evaluator for you here. And instead of doing that now, I'll do it later in the interest of time. So, Tyler, do you have any idea what the market lot rent is right now?
Yeah, I sent you the OM. I could pull it up myself right now.
Screw the OM, because they're going to tell us some bullshit number that is probably inaccurate. So, what is the county that
I
this
think
is
it was
located
in Amador County.
in California?
Yes, and the average rent is 650.
Amador, there it is.
Bumfuck.
All right, let's open up. this, drop this in here, and okay, it looks like about 1700, 1350 equals this divided by 2. So we're going to get 7 or 675. It's the average lot rent. Market lot rent growth, 3%. What is the current lot rent in the OM?
So it says average of 650 per unit.
Okay, so they're almost at market. Is that, are they at, excuse me, are they,
Some are much lower, like some are in the 400s, some are in the 700s, but
are those POHs? Let me just take a look. I'll open this up.
yeah.
Copy. Guys, I'm going to ask for, in the interest of time, if we have deals to review, like in this case, we have a lot of deals to review. Um, it's probably going to be easier if everyone uploads this kind of stuff ahead of time. And if you do have a deal to review, like Tyler did, and I didn't tell him to do this, so it's not his fault. But in the future, what we'll do is we'll have people upload all of their files into their respective folders, so I can just pull it up real quick with a link. So let's take a look. Everyone can see this, right? Looks like they want $2 million.
He's already down at 1.9 right now, so we could put that if you want.
1.9, and we absolutely will do that. Okay. Um, let's take a look at the rent roll on here. Just have a breakout. It just says MH, which makes me think it's just the lot rent, but I want to be
I
sure.
believe most of them are 10 and up.
Okay, great. And you did an average of these?
I used his average, which was 650.
Okay.
I should probably start doing my own averages too.
Yeah, easiest way to do that is just going to be to ask our good friend, Mr. GPT here, just so we don't have to do the math on a PDF. And we'll just let that work in the background while we do the rest of this. Total rent in the area, it can be around 1350 since we don't have any TOHs or POHs to go off of. So let's just say it's 1350. And then how many are there? Do you know the makeup of the rent roll?
How many?
It
There's
says
48 total
48
sites, 30
total.
of them. Yeah, 30 are occupied.
Cool. 48. Sorry, this is 30. And then
And
this is 18. Is that correct?
say that, yeah, 18 are unoccupied. And then also he has a rent survey of the 8 other parks near them. And it's the average is 774 for lot rent.
Wow, okay, that's fantastic. So that's even eclipses like what we think lot rent is here. But yeah, let's just stick with the average and then we'll consider that upside. So let's call this 750. And then we have 1350. So let's call it 1500 or something like that. And okay, so now we have our exit inputs here. What's your expense ratio? Do you know what the total expenses are for the park? Is it in this OM?
Uh, yes, I think right now it's at like 70%. But looking at their P&L, like it seems like you could bring it down a lot. It's 71.17 is their expense ratio.
Yikes. I
So
wonder
they're
why.
paying all of the utilities, water, propane, electric,
Okay, that makes sense. I
and
wonder.
8% management.
Yeah, let's take a look here. Yeah, zero utility income. I see that. And that's what they're adding to the pro forma here.
Yep.
Is this well and septic or is it public
That
utilities?
is a good question.
I see here it's septic pumping,
Yep.
and I don't see anything about a well, but let's take a look here. Water.
Water is provided by Amador Water Agency through master meter. Um,
Okay, so it sounds like it's public.
yeah, it's public water.
Okay, so it's public water and septic. So you have slightly elevated expense ratio for the septic. Depends on how new they are and how often you need to pump them, but that's good. I mean, it's easier to have septic than it is to have a well, in my opinion. The wells require more maintenance, and the water here, you can bill that back. So that's what they're probably doing
Yeah,
here in
it
this pro
says only
forma.
a few tenants right now pay a flat rate for water.
Got it. And you're gonna have to look at the regulatory environment in California and see if you can bill back the water, or if you're subject to some kind of rent increase, a cap, because they'll probably deem that bill back
As a rent
as part of the
increase.
rent increase. Yeah. So just be wary of that. You might want to, you like in that case, you would just forego a rent increase in 1 year in lieu of
That's what I was
just,
thinking.
and
Yeah.
that's the good long-term play, right? Because now you're gonna either eliminate an expense line item entirely in perpetuity. And by the way, like that increase in that water is subject to like increases in the cost of water that are now passed on to your tenant. So that's a variable you eliminate. I would always start with that variable and
Yep.
then increase rents from there. Um, because now they're also responsible for it too, right? They're if they're not responsible for it, they're taking like 20-minute showers 3 times a day. And so you got
I do
that
the same
issue.
thing.
Yeah, same, right? So I uh I literally just bought a notepad for the shower because I had all these ideas and I'm like I'm so glad I don't pay for my water bill. I live in New York City. For those of you who also live here, you know that
Yeah, but you
there's
also
no
pay
water
like
bill.
12K a month probably.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I make up for it in the rent, but either way, at least I'm not responsible for the water. And now that I'm a landlord, I'm really starting to second guess myself. But anyway, that this looks good. It looks like almost a vacation, potentially like short-term place where people have like a second home. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know anything about
So
it.
some
That's
of
what the
them,
vibe
the
is giving
broker
me.
told me are pre-HUD, but
Okay.
that's not in writing. So in due diligence, I could use that as leverage as well. I don't really know the deal with that.
Well, I can tell you that, just looking at these lots, they look like they're far enough apart where even if they are pre-HUD, you might be able to just like knock down a tree and add a larger
Yep.
home. But that's definitely a concern where you don't have a lot of land surrounding your mobile home park. So this looks rural enough where you could probably just, expand a little bit more as long as it's not encroaching on the road. But yeah, you definitely have to do the diligence. You have to be like, you have to make sure you go out there with one of those measuring poles that you roll
Yep.
and just ensure that you measure the lots. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there when you get this thing under contract, but let's keep going through the 5 minute deal evaluator here. Total expenses were 155,979. That is a 67% expense ratio on total rent. This is a lot rent park. Let's just leave it at total rent for now. Purchase price you said was 1.9. LTV 75%. Do you have any terms here? Is this seller financing or bank financing?
So he didn't want to do seller financing, but I said he had to, or else I can't get it. And so he said 30% at 6%. I mean, 30% LTV, 6% no. Again, I could probably negotiate it down a little bit, but I'm not too worried about that. So I think it's
Is he looking to sit in a seller second position? Because you can't do this deal, I imagine, with 30% LTV.
as he like he wants 600K down,
Yeah, you're not
is
doing
what he said.
that. Oh,
No?
600K down.
Yeah.
It's a 70% LTV loan.
70% LTV.
Okay,
Yeah.
God. I thought you said 30% LTV. I was like, that's no good.
No, no, no.
All right, and at 6%. And is it interest only?
5 year IO.
Cool. That's right here. And did he give you an amortization period?
No,
Let's just say it's going to be
no.
30. Is there, I'm sure there'll be a balloon payment at some point, but
It'll be a 5 year balloon.
okay. So 5 year IO here at 6%, 70% seller financing. Let's look at like these are because it's seller financing and there's no bank, your closing costs are going to be less. Your
Yep.
capex is going to be probably a lot higher because you have all these vacant park owned homes.
Hmm.
But you can also like you have to kind of look at what the market can bear. If people are selling homes left and right and they're selling them for high prices, and that'll be up to you, by the way, to find out. Just go to Zillow and look at like home sales for mobile homes or MH Village or one of those places where mobile
Okay.
homes are for sale. Then you'll be able to understand what you can put into those homes. Because if you're getting them all for free, right? Say like he sells this thing to you, and you're assigning all of the value to the park itself. Then these are basically $0. You have $0 into the vacant park owned homes, and if you put $5,000 or $10,000 into fixing them and can sell them for 20,000, well then great. But if you're if like part of this purchase price is attributed to those park owned homes, and then so you say you're like $20,000 in per park owned home, and then you add another five to it, and then you're selling, for 20, now you have $5,000 loss on each home. That's not necessarily bad too. Like you can attribute some of the purchase price to the homes themselves. So when you sell off these vacant park owned homes, first of all, you can depreciate those assets and then take those losses. But then also when you sell them off, you can sell them at a loss, quote unquote, and take that cap loss against any of your cap gains. There's a lot of ways you
Right.
can play with this from the standpoint of like taxes. Don't worry too much about that. Talk to a tax attorney about that. I recommend Ferd for your attorney. He's going to help you kind of like figure these types of things out. But when you're buying this many vacant park owned homes, how much of this purchase price you're attributing to these vacant park owned homes is going to be an important part of that equation. So just think about that
Okay.
as you're kind of diving into this a bit more. Equity needed 570. I assume you have that under your mattress.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, good. Well, when you come up with it, let me know, and and we can get this thing under contract. But I'm
Yeah,
sure
no, I'm
that
sitting on top of it right now.
yeah, I'm sure you are. Top. You get on top of it sooner rather than later. But I would get the deal under contract first. This way, you can go to them with more certainty. Those investors. All
Yeah.
right, so 580 total equity needed. You might need a little bit more. I would just like start out with like $30,000 cash float, just so that you can put some work into these homes and start selling them off one by one.
Uh,
But other than that, you should be fine. Looks like your cash on cash return here is negative, my friend. So,
so I already told the broker I won't do 1.9 because I'd be in the negative.
yes.
Um, but I'd love to see if there's like a number that we say would work, whether it be like a 1.5, 1.6.
Yeah, I think one, I mean, listen, this is gonna be a highly risky deal. Um,
Yeah.
but like if you're able to accomplish the business plan, I'm sure this is going to look really good, right? So now let's move down here and figure out if you accomplish this business plan. You sell off those park owned homes. Got 48 homes, zero and zero there. Okay, so 750 is what we decided because you have 775 in surrounding parks, and your market lot rent right now is 675, growing at 3% annually over a 5 year hold gets you to 783. We have a 5 year stabilization period, so that should it's probably not going to take you that long, to be quite frank. But let's make this three, so that's fine. We'll bring this down to 720. Either way, though, without a refi, so say you're 3 years in, you still have 2 years on your IO here. Maybe you do want to refi. I'm not going to play with this right now because I don't want it to mess up the model, but um, like if you just maintain that existing loan and you just fill those lots, look at what
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah. That's an ideal scenario.
I mean, I don't see why you can't do it unless the demand isn't there. And the reason that the so like when you look at this, my friend, why is it sitting like why is he willing to do seller financing? Why is he willing to um sell at
Oh,
one five?
he needs to do 1031. So I know he needs to sell it or really
All right,
wants to.
that's a good reason, right? Because now it's not because the market sucks. It's that he's like getting older, doesn't want to put in the work to turn over these homes. This is truly a distressed property, but it's not like distress in terms of like it being an absolute dud. It's just distress in
Yeah.
that like it's potentially someone who's later on in their life and doesn't want to deal with it anymore. So you can come in and just put in the sweat equity to turn over these homes, and now all of a sudden you're sitting on a gorgeous asset in a good market. Apparently 775. That's unbelievable. And all it needs is just a little bit of T&L and some sweat equity. So if that's the case and you need to go out there and check it out and like go to the local mobile home parks and talk to the local people and talk about like whether this town is dying, whether it's on the rise, whether they're actually getting
Yeah.
70, 75 in the area, what you can buy a mobile home park there for in some of these other communities. If your community really even like kind of matches up to this one, because then that's going to,
Mhm.
if it's like a 2-star community versus everyone's 5-star, then your 775 goes down the drain pretty quick, right? So
Yeah,
just
all the ones next to it are like almost 100% occupied. So I think the demand is going to be there. Most of the parks in
amazing.
California are always 100% occupied, which is pretty cool.
So I don't even know why we're talking about this, man. Go buy the thing.
So would you say I'm gonna go back to the broker right now and say 1.5 and I'll be there on Monday with a purchase agreement.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
if you think they're flexible and you can go even lower, then try and get a lower basis. You're at 125 right here,
the
right? So
1.4 was my original offer.
and he said
And
no.
he entertained it, which is, I didn't expect him to entertain it when the asking was 2 million. Um,
So why'd you go back up to 1.9? Did you
he
panic?
countered at 1.9.
Oh, okay. If he's
Yeah, and
entertaining at one
I told the
four,
broker straight
yeah.
up no, and then I waited for this meeting, and then I'm gonna respond.
Okay. Glad we covered this then. All right. So, yeah, your purchase price at 1.5 works, right? Because the way that I'm thinking
Yeah,
about this, Tyler, is like, how do we make it like worst case scenario, you needed to refi tomorrow? How do we make it so that your debt service coverage is at
yeah,
least a
that's what I'm worried
1.25?
about.
And it looks like it is at 1.5. So I think you can get this deal done at that price. And obviously, if you accomplish this business plan, you're sitting pretty. Like we haven't even done an IRR. I don't know. So we can take a look here. I don't really even. Ryan really likes this piece about like equity created. It's not the most important thing to me because we don't know what's going to happen in the future and like what you can sell this at. Unless there's an
Yeah,
IRR attached to it, it means nothing to me because I come from a private equity background. So like I'm very IRR focused.
yeah, the
If you want to
institutional
know,
guys love IRR.
oh yeah, we love it. We love
I've
it.
always hated it.
It's the perfect measure of what you're making annually. So if you can always you can it's a benchmark against the S&P 500, right? Like S&P's spitting out 8 to 10% a year. If I'm making 20, I'm looking pretty good, right? I'm making double that.
Yeah,
So that's why we like it at PE. But listen, regardless, like we can see what this trades at. The 100x rule, if you get it to 720 in 3 years, $72,000 a site. So let's do that. And you could probably sell it for more than that. Like you probably sell it for 80 a site if it's truly a hot market, like you say. And now all of a sudden you're creating $2.3 million worth of equity if you sell it for that. So, um, you know, I don't know whether that's possible, frankly. Like I don't know this market very well. But if you get it to that price, if you get lot rents to where they need to be at 720, you could
sell it
probably
and make
sell
some
it
money.
for something like that. Yeah. Especially
What would
it's a
your
decent sized park.
Yeah, it is. What would you say would be your maximum offer that you would put on a park like this?
Yeah, so it's really dependent, man, on like look, you're gonna be making cash flow of $185,000 a year. What makes you happy, right? Like, so that would be like the highest I would go. It's like, what would make you satisfied, right? It's like if I'm clipping $100,000 a year, I'm pretty satisfied. If I'm clipping $50,000 a year, I'm pretty satisfied. But that's the way we kind of think about this. It's in terms of ugh, okay, and oh my God. And I think
Yeah.
it's kind of usually the opposite, right? we kind of go in that direction, or sorry, okay and UG, because you can be really happy about 1.5. I think 1.4 makes you real happy.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
okay is 1.5. Because right now you're paying 31,000. You're really underpaying for this, dude. Like you're paying $31,000 per physically occupied lot, and the 100x rule says you should be paying 650 or 65. I
Uh,
mean, so you're underpaying like crazy for this
make
park.
money on the buy.
Yeah, exactly. So my gut says like, what the hell is wrong with this thing? Because if it's, all the metrics that we're talking about right now, they sound really, really good. But then if that's the case and it's in California and it's in such a great market, like why are you able to talk him down from his ask? And how long has it been sitting on the market? Like, have other people gotten this thing under contract and found some things wrong with it? And that's why he's so negotiable on purchase price. So I hate being the guy to be like, why is
You're
the other,
right.
where's the other, when's the other shoe going to drop? But, part of me feels like you shouldn't be able to buy this thing for 31 per occupied lot if the fundamentals are this good, unless it was off market, which it's not. And that's the
It's
reason
not.
that scares me. Yeah. So, it'd still be a good exercise because like maybe you see something that somebody else doesn't, or well, I don't know, man. Like let's find out. It is a 67% expense ratio. Oh, here we go. I'd knock down your expense ratio to 40%. So, and without any expense recovery. So that's really where a lot of this value comes from here. But if you pop this back up to 67, you're still doing well on a cash on cash basis at 15, but like obviously that's not as good. And then what did we say that you could bill back these utilities to? It was 60,000 a lot, or 60,000 a year, I think. 67.
67?
All right, let's pop that back in. So let's call it 30%. No, it's too high, 25. Yeah, so right around there. So yeah, if you bill back the utilities and you're still running a 67% expense ratio, you're still in pretty good shape.
All right. Well, wish me luck. It's only been on the market for 20 days. So, there's a low chance of this getting accepted, but we'll see.
Yeah, this expense ratio is just blowing my mind. I
It's
don't think
very
I've ever
high.
seen an expense ratio this high in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's confusing.
Yeah, and yet the deal still works. I guess the debt service is low. I'm just trying to find out if this model's fucked up or no. It looks right to me. Anyway, get out there, get it under contract at 1.5, and then we'll, worst case scenario, if we find something wrong with it, like maybe someone else has already and drop the deal, then we'll just retrade them down, and we'll get a seller credit on the closing statement for whatever that repair is. All right.
All right. Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited. I love the deals that we have tonight. They all look really good. I'm
Do
a
I
little
have access to
skeptical.
this document?
Yeah, you do. One second. Let me make a copy of it for you. Actually, are you here? Let me send you this link
Not.
on file. Make a copy. What's the name of this park?
Buckhorn.
Buckhorn. All right. Tyler, what's your Google email address?
Is ty@marketblock.com.
Just had it. There it is. All right. You should have access to that folder with both these in there. All right, guys.
Awesome. Thank
I
you.
I know there's still a lot of people on here who have deals to underwrite, and I'm just gonna stay on until they're done. So let's dive in. Jordan, you got something?
Yeah, I'll send it to you in your email.
Thank you, my friend.
And by the way, I know a little bit about Jeff. The dude's a G, man. He's been doing creative deals for longer than you've been alive.
I know. He told me, Jeff, you hear that, man?
I've followed him a lot in the single family realm, and he's had
Thank you.
people pay him to get sub two deals, and so
Yeah,
he definitely knows his way around getting creative deals.
I love to hear that. It sounds like we're developing a really strong group here, and that makes me happy. So let's jump into your deal here, Jordan. Where did you send it
Your
specifically? Is it right?
email, I sent.
Okay, I see it. 94 Flood Road.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Mayfield, attached to rent roll, park map. Okay, hold on. Looks like a nice park. Mayfield, Kentucky.
yeah, it's also in a that's going to be a tertiary area, so it's a um small area. And also from one of the guys that was in the comments about being the poverty level thing, I think this one is like 30 some percent poverty, so doesn't hit that metric, but I kind of just wanted to see like where exactly maybe this would make sense.
Yeah, I honestly had never used that metric. Pat Gage was using it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And maybe that
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but I do think that, and I could be wrong, that Ryan does a lot of he buys a lot of his parks, I think, close to obviously bigger metros and MSAs.
he does. He also had the benefit of buying into mobile home parks in 2016.
It's fair.
So we can't, we can't look at his portfolio and hem and haw about, poverty metrics. I feel like at this point, even if we're talking about poverty metrics, right? Like Pat Gage, for context, love that dude. He was in multi first, and I think in the realm of multi, you need to be a little bit more careful about poverty
Mm,
lines, specifically because you own the building, and in many cases, it's harder to get them out. It's also
mm,
they could do damage to your property. But if it's mobile home park, they own their unit. You can give it to them on a rent to own at a low rate. So is the poverty
sure.
line that important as long as they're working? I don't think so. As long as you have good tenants, then it's fine, right? Like there's still, what is that? You said 30%. There's still 70% of people who aren't below the poverty line. So that there's always going to be a market for housing. I don't think you can look at that. Maybe if it's 50% poverty or 70% poverty, you got something to worry about. But like I said, I've never looked at that metric. I just looked basically at like what the local lot rents are, and that's a
Yeah.
good indication of whether the market's good, right? If you're clipping $400 to $600 lot rents, I mean, the poverty line might be there might be 30% poverty, but you're still probably going to be okay from a mobile home park standpoint as long as you're vetting your tenants, they have good credit scores, yada 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 yada, right? There's low crime in the area, whatever the case may be. Now, I don't know too much about the Southeast. It's not my market. This is more of like a Ryan market, right? But like up north, there's a lot of rural areas that have still high lot rents for some reason, specifically New York State, right? I have $600 lot rent in the middle of New York State, like upstate New York, effectively. So that might be the case here. I don't want, I'm going on this diatribe so that people aren't scared away by markets that have some poverty in it. I just think it's always worth a look, especially if you're on like a main artery, aka a major highway into a rural hub. Rural hub is something is like what we call basically a small satellite city that functions as a gateway to potentially other larger cities or
Hmm.
MSAs. And so just keep that in mind. There also might be, one or two or three employers in the area, and everyone who's not employed by those people is below the poverty line because there's not much other work, right? So as long as you're capturing those that are employed, you're going to be okay. So, again, I spent too much time talking about this, but don't let that scare you away from deals.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, that's why I still want to go over because I feel like there's still maybe some opportunity here. So I like the size of it.
Yeah. Like, again, everyone has to live in with a roof over their head. So no matter where you are in the country, that's what makes this such a great asset type. So let's dive in here. So is there an OM or just this basic information?
Yeah, there's a rent roll within the email there.
Okay,
Not
I
just
see
on
it.
the link, but there's a rent roll attached.
Okay, let's do this real quick. I'm gonna copy this stuff.
So I was just struggling, I guess, putting in, how to put it in the 5 minute evaluator as far as the what's actually the park owned rent versus the uh, versus just the lot rent. So how to properly do that.
Should have like just one prompt for this, but sometimes it varies. What is this liability per year?
I'm guessing, yeah. I don't know if it's like a is that like a liability insurance? I don't know.
Maybe. Actually, that's probably what it is. All right, let's see what this yields me. Let's create a copy. What's the name of this park?
Just 94 flood. We'll just call it that. I don't know.
Perfect. Let's go here.
It feels like the expenses are fairly low for the owner lives in the park.
Nice. Truly owner occupied. All right, let's make a copy.
Maybe he's going to do like Ron did. I don't know. Maybe he's up and coming.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe we're dealing with somebody, a nice rival park owner here. He's just selling you a lemon. All right, here we go. Uh, I just took this from ChatGPT, put it in a table format for me. Let's see what we can do with this. Okay, so total lots 48, 13 tenant-owned homes, 20 park-owned homes, 18 occupied, one RTO plus one owner occupied plus assume 16 rented. All right, let's put this in. Does that sound right to you? Did ChatGPT do this correctly?
So, um, 14 are paying lot rent, which I done the math. The way that they worded this in the email and stuff was really funny, I guess. But
Park-owned homes. Okay, so I have 33 so far, and then vacant park-owned homes. Is that maybe where we're getting tripped up here? Vacant two. Oh, there's a bunch of rent owns. That's why.
hmm
Okay, so this park-owned home number is actually more. Let's just do this on our own over here. So we have
so
tenant-owned
technically there's
homes.
17 vacant lots and then the owner occupied house that the guy lives in that would also is a double wide. But so there's technically 18 that is not being occupied.
Okay, so right now for TOH, it's just the 13. For POH, it looks like it's the park-owned homes
hmm
plus, or sorry, it's these 18 occupied park-owned homes plus this rent-to-own plus this, well, I guess the owner-occupied one doesn't count.
No,
So then we can do
but
vacant POH here. Let's do that equals the vacant here and the owner-occupied here. And then we have vacant lots. which is going to be this one. And then that should equal, wait, it says total occupied lots 32. Oh, so you have actual vacant lots here. Let me just do the math. That's 50. So they said there's total of 48, but we're getting to 50.
Yeah. Um,
Interesting. Well, whatever. It's not that big a deal. We'll get a better rent roll
yeah.
later.
Yeah.
We can also take a look at this to see who's right. And it doesn't look like it's going to show us. At some point, you can also count them. It says 19 Parkland homes as well as an owner-occupied double wide with 3 bedrooms and 2 baths.
Yeah. So
48 lot, well maintained, 19 Parkland homes. Okay. Interesting.
it indicates on the rent roll that there's technically there's I wrote it down there's 17 plus the one that's the owner occupied, so there's technically 18 that's actually vacant. So
Yeah, no, that we have here in
okay,
terms
I
of
got
like
he's got
non-paying.
got it.
But I don't know where those additional two are coming from. Maybe it's only 11 tenant-owned homes.
Maybe so.
Yeah, let's just be
We'll roll with that.
conservative. And if you have a surprise of two additional ones later, fantastic. All right. So 11, let's reference this here. 19, vacant park-owned homes, reference this. 3, and then vacant lots, 15. So that gets us to 48. Let's go back to,
You, so you did you do the just the average on all that in for that input?
I didn't yet. So it says potential income from owner unit. It's not telling me what the average is here. So let's find out if it answered. Total lot rent, 250 a
So
month,
currently coming in at 16,690.
16,690. Okay. This doesn't break it out for us, does it? I'm looking at the email.
It's in the you see the attachment where there's the
Oh, I
rent roll,
didn't.
the
Much
rent
better.
roll. Yeah. If you go to the just scrolling down to past the
It
scroll.
doesn't give us an average, right?
No, it doesn't give us an average, but I mean I could do it based on what's
No, no worries. I'm just gonna drop it in chat and see what pops.
so I've got like I think 556.
Okay. I have about 300 for total rent. And it does look like there's 11. And then 787 for total rent for the Parkland homes. So let's try that. See if it gets us to our 300 and then, or that's market. Sorry, this is 300. Should find out what market law rent is. Total rent. Hold up.
That total rent for the just the lot rent is
787.
okay.
So just so No. So like when we were doing total rent, total rent's just going to be the lot rent plus the home rent. So it's
Okay.
assuming that I guess it says that the lot rent's 300 right now. And
Mm-hmm.
the total rent is 788, so that's an additional 488 for the home rent itself. And then we need to come up with a market lot rent. So do you know what county this is in?
I do not. This is Graves County.
Okay, Kentucky, Graves. Nice. Yeah, I mean these rents are lower, right? So it's kind of jiving with the poverty line conversation of earlier, but it still means that your lot rent is 850, 850, or sorry, your total rent could be 850, which means that you're below market right now. It's common to be like slightly below market though. Divided by two, 425. So this market lot rent is 425. You guys might grow slightly less than the average because you're in a tertiary market. So I'm going to put this at 2% rent growth. Market lot rent will grow to 451. So let's put that at 450. And then we can also put this total rent 788. Let's call it 900 or so. All right. Um, Now let's go through the rest of this here. So total expenses, do we have that?
Yeah, so I just done the math, and um it's about
11,000.
like it was like 11,200 a month. So I thought it was low, but that was about what I was coming up with.
So it says it's 11,700 annually. That's got to be incorrect. The ChatGPT is telling me that. So let me just go back to this email to double check here. Unless there a attachment in that email?
And she just put it in the no, wait, let's see.
Yeah,
No,
she
no,
just put it
that
in
is
here.
actually correct. That's what yeah, it's 11,000 a year.
Yeah,
That's
that sounds wrong.
yeah.
But
So like taxes are 5,000, trash.
I mean,
You
maybe.
so it was like 11,000 something, and that was all they gave me.
All right. Well, we dig into that a little bit more, but I mean,
Yeah.
if even if it's 100% more than that, I think you're still in good shape here. I really don't think this could be true. What is that? Yeah, it's a 5% expense ratio.
Hmm.
How the hell? Especially this is well and septic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I don't think so. I think that's probably false. So let's just run it at like a 35% expense ratio and ignore what they said. So what's this equals gross revenue divided by 35% or times 35%, I should say. 81,000 a year. Where am I? Oh, I'm in the wrong one. 37,000 a year. It's on total rent, which is yielding, yeah, let's go down here instead, especially because these are a lot of park owned homes. I think that they're grossly understating their expenses, my friend. I don't know how, I mean,
Hmm.
that's sketchy. But dude, like even at a 35% expense ratio, if that's like multiplying their total expenses by seven, um, you're still doing pretty well in terms of a cash on cash return, right? You're at $80,000 a year. So wait a minute. Just make sure that I entered all this information in the right place. Yeah, I think I did. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused with all these tabs open. Let me close these out. All right. And then what was the purchase price?
Yeah, it's at 1.5.
Okay, good. And do you have any financing inputs that you want to put in here that maybe you know about or think you can get?
as far
If
as
you have no idea, I can estimate them for you. I
no, I
would say
don't.
like 70%, 70% LTV,
Yeah.
7% interest, hopefully a 30-year AM, but more
What are y'all
conservatively, it's
mostly
probably
seeing?
20.
Are you seeing 25-year mostly AM on mobile home parks?
It really varies, but I typically see 20 to 25. It's not
Yeah.
usually 30.
Yeah, exactly. I figured most commercials less.
Yeah. So no expense recovery, expense ratio of 35% on total rent.
He is, it says seller pays master meter bill and bills tenants separately for water according to their individual meter readings.
Hmm. Listen, let's not put that in there right now because I don't even think they've included there. This is the jankiest
Yeah.
P&L I've ever seen
Information.
in my life. So like we'll get more information and we'll fill this expense recovery in. But for now, you're achieving a 10% cash on cash return at close, which is pretty good, even if you add like 30,000 of holding period capex
Hmm.
and $10,000 of closing costs in year one capex. So
That's
frankly, I think that's a pretty good in place performance outside of the fact that it doesn't work from a lot rent standpoint, right? So we'll talk about that. You're going to have more trouble probably getting a lender to lend on this unless it's like a local bank.
hmm
So let's turn this over and see what happens. If we get all 48 of these, well, not the vacant lots. We're going to leave the vacant lots because that'll cost you a lot of money
hmm
to get
Yeah.
those in there. But let's say you get all 33 as park owned homes,
hmm
and you keep these 15 here. And you get the 450. Is that what we said?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And 900 in total rent, expense ratio. That's why 67%. That's really high. Let's call it 35. And then let's say you do bill back. So let's say you accomplish the business plan of selling off all these homes.
hmm
Now and like, let's just talk about why you want to do that, right? And I'm sure you know enough about this where I don't have to go into too much detail, but these park owned homes are going to take a lot of your time.
Yeah.
And it's not really what you want to do, um, in a tertiary market unless you live nearby
hmm
and and like have a team that can handle these turnovers. I know plenty of people who do have park owned home strategies and they do well, right?
hmm
And they do well from a cash flow standpoint. And if we're talking purely like you and again, like Jordan, we haven't dug into your strategy. I don't know what your goal is with mobile home park investing. If I have the ability to go full time, leave my job and just be a mobile home park investor, I don't care if I have to have a lot of POH at the outset, right? Because I'm just like getting full time. So
hmm
that means I'm going to try and jack up my cash on cash return.
Sure.
So typically, when you look at tertiary markets like this, you're looking for a significant cash on cash return despite it being TOH, right? When you need to do POH, which means you're going to have more turnover and you have less quality tenants, that's also a consideration. But you can, if you, all this to say, like, it can be worth doing POH. It might be harder to do that in a tertiary market. But again, if you're going full time, it might be worth it to you. And that's where this becomes a lot about your feeling about how much work this might be. So it will be a
hmm
lot of work to turn these parks from 19 park owned homes to 33 tenant owned homes, right? So that's work in itself. And then once you get all that work done, you're clipping a 6.9% cash on cash return. So, how does that make you feel? Is a good question.
Yeah, that doesn't make me feel real warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. So that's kind of the question we have to ask ourselves when we do these types of exercises. Now, if we, potentially we turn this into 33 park owned homes,
hmm
or we leave the 11 here and this becomes 22, well, now all of a sudden we're clipping 25% cash
hmm
on cash return after 3 years. So how does that make you feel, right? So
hmm
but now you're doing, remember, you've done a lot of work to turn these to tenant owned homes. And then you're clipping a 9% cash on cash return or a 6.8. I can't remember what it was. Now you're doing a lot of work all the time to keep these things housed, maintained, etc., of not vacant but occupied,
Mm-hmm.
and you're clipping a 25% cash on cash return, or annually you're making $121,000. Listen, it might be worth the headache to go full time and get 121K a year. You also need to consider that we've only put $30,000 of holding period capex in here. This might go up a bit if if you're running a park owned home model, because you're going to have to recycle capital back into those homes to keep them livable.
Mm-hmm.
So all this to say, I don't like it. I don't think I like it at this price, frankly, because
Yeah.
it's pretty tertiary. But there's a right price for everything,
Yep.
and I think like the right price for me is always, um, you know, if I'm running a park owned home model, it's like, holy crap, this is a lot of cash I'm collecting, so it's worth all the bullshit, and I can pay contractors like
Mm-hmm.
the absorbent amount of money they sometimes need to get things done, and not worry about the cash flow that's left over because it fuels me. Or I can run this as a tenant owned home model with a lot less headaches, and I'm comfortable with the cash on cash. And in that case, I'd say a 15 or above, 15% or above. So let's go back to the cash on cash model here. Say it's 33
Mm-hmm.
and 0. And let's talk about what we'd be comfortable with here. So let's go to 1 million.
Mm-hmm. I came in with like honestly it was like 980,000.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you had the right idea, because now you're clipping a 19% cash on cash return
Yep.
with a fully tenant owned home model.
Yep.
So you're putting $66,000 in your pocket to fix some issues with and then maybe fixing some issues with the well and septic.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Yep.
they might be running this thing at $11,000 a year, so we're completely off.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's
but
input that. We might be crushing it.
oh my God, dude, you're gonna crush it if that's the case, right? And then here we put this as like a 5% expense ratio. Yeah, I mean, now it's absurd. So I doubt it. Again, like I
Yeah.
think you need to dig in. I wouldn't
Yeah.
let this deal go yet. I think there's a right price for it.
Yeah, it's been on the
But
market almost a year. So I
uh,
mean, and I think mostly because it's in where it is. It's in
yeah,
Mayfield. It's out there in western Kentucky. So
out in the middle.
yeah, there's not a lot going on out there. So it's
Well, listen, I would.
but it's I mean I like going through this exercise just to see like how this um makes sense. I'm never really good with the underwriting portion, but I just know if I can buy something for 50 cents on the dollar, I feel like I'm getting a fair shake. So that's about where I feel like it was. There at 1.5. I feel like okay, if I come up a little bit, probably could still I can if I feel like I can steal it, that's where I feel like I'm getting a good deal.
Yeah, and so where you start to be able to quote unquote steal it is approximating a 10 cap at the 100x rule. So we brought it down to a million, and we're at 30,000 a pad, which is clipping the 100x rule. So that's a good indication that we're getting a pretty decent deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for a tertiary market, I like to be even further underneath the 100x rule, maybe
Mm-hmm.
20K a pad or 25K a pad.
Okay.
So all this to say that I think you had the right idea at 950, and I don't think you should have them shake your belief,
Mm-hmm.
unless there's market upside that we're not capturing here, right? Because we're
Yeah.
going all the way up to market for
Mm-hmm.
this lot rent.
I think the idea, and I'm learning this as I go, but as the cost, people are trying to sell you on like, well, there's like all these extra lots, but the cost to improve those is dramatic. And that's, yeah, if you were to do that, like, yeah, you may need a $500,000, CapEx expense to do it. But can you even fill that for one? And then is the risk worth the reward?
I was just talking to myself. Um, I would try and get this thing under contract at one, and then you can further talk them down from there.
Yeah.
But listen, I
Yeah.
think if you get it under contract a little higher, and then you say you lied about your expenses after you're under contract, then you can
Mm-hmm.
retrade. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the move, right? There's a lot of ways you can play this, and I'm not talking to the broker, so I don't know if they're like, we're hard and fast on 1.5. In
Yeah.
which case, like, you just have to walk, I think, because it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. But
Hmm.
And they'll learn real quick. Like I don't know why they think they can get, and let's just do the math here. They can get $45,000 a pad in the
Hmm.
middle of nowhere. I don't know
Yeah.
why they think that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like I said, I think they're trying to, pro forma the empty lots. It's like, hey, you got all these other ones that you can put houses on. It's like, yeah, and the cost to do that is X, is
Yeah,
a
100
ton.
100,000 a pad. So
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. That's what they try to sell you on, but and you can do it obviously, much you probably could do it much cheaper, but it's like, is the risk worth it?
do
So
you think that Jamie Abel, sorry
yeah.
to call you out on a live stream here, Jamie, but do you think that this woman knows how to value mobile home parks? I doubt it.
So the girl that sent me the email, which works for Jamie, is Michaela, a very young girl. So I noticed, I followed, just kind of looked her up, and she only does residential. So
Yeah.
that's
That's a
usually,
red flag.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So usually they don't they don't overshoot it. Usually they undershoot it, and that's where you can catch a good deal. But
Yes. Yeah.
nonetheless, here we are. So, but it's been on the market a year, and it may fall. Who knows? They may lose they may just take it off the market, which is actually be better than I could get direct to the seller.
All right, Jordan. Well, listen, I think you got a good
Awesome.
potential one
Yeah.
here. Jump into this. Let's see if you can get it at one. And then if you can, I think we dive into diligence and we see what comes up. All right.
Awesome. Can you send me that too as well?
Yes, sir. Hold on. Let me just find this folder. Make sure that I have you in here.
Thank you so much for doing
Of
this.
course, man. Oh, I have two folders for you. Have I done one previously? Or did I just create two? Oh, maybe I did one previously here. Hold on. Let me move this into your other folder. Yeah, okay. They're both in here. So let me just make sure you have access. And what's the email address?
Jordan dot McCoy 13 at Gmail.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan.
Thank you, man.
Of course, dude. Happy to have you on here. And thanks for contributing to everyone else's education as well. All right,
Appreciate
who
it.
else on here has a deal to review? Deckle, I think you can come on group tomorrow and talk about yours. So I'm gonna hold off on you here. Who else here has a deal that they need to review? All right, guys. Thank you, because I'm running on fumes. I need to eat some dinner. I will let you guys go. If you guys have any questions, it's urgent. I got all the numbers for you. All right, Deckle, pull it up. Let's see what you got. Go live.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you. It is urgent. I don't know. The broker is killing me. Okay. So I can get you all the numbers. I'm using a different calculator. So if you want, use yours, and then I'll just put, just tell me what numbers you need or any information.
Okay, fair enough. Do we want to do like an actual pro forma here, or do we want to do a 5 minute deal evaluator?
Probably with Proforma will be better. Yeah, because it is gonna be negative year one. I already know.
Okay, let's do a pro forma. I love that. We haven't done a pro forma yet tonight, so at least
Okay.
we'll get some good content. All right.
So,
Ready? Let's dive in. I am starting at revenue occupied tenant owned homes day one.
okay. So 17 tenant-owned homes, ranging. Well, I'll just tell you the average that I put it. 444.
Do you know what the market lot rent is?
Market lot rent is probably, I'm being conservative at 550. It's probably at the 600 or
Okay.
575.
Let's go the average of those two, 575.
Okay.
So total rent, any park owned homes here?
No park on homes.
Okay, let's call it $800 or let's call it $1,200 in total rent then just to be, just to have something in there. We'll call this 1,400 at stabilization. So there's no park owned homes. This is zero. Any RVs,
No RVs.
any vacant park owned homes?
No vacant park on homes. There is so it's either 42. This is something that I'll have to determine, but it's typically a 40, I think 40 space park. But they have the he's telling me that most people gonna be on double wide that they come in or whatever. So it's probably at 37, but the park is approved for like 40. So, sorry, 34. That's what I went by. But I don't know if I can come in with single wides, if they'll come in, which I saw some advertisements in the area for single wides for other parks. Then that make maybe that number higher for the sites on that. But I went conservative for what the broker told me, and I'm around 34 total spaces, if and it could be 40.
Okay. So hold on. Let's just do this. 17. Deckle, I don't know how many of these you've watched, so I'm gonna you stop me if you've heard this before, but we're not big on underwriting fillable lots
I
until
know.
okay, cool, you
I
know.
know. It's just such a good market in my
Fair
eyes.
enough.
I'm
If you
talking
can
with
get it
another
done.
seller, yeah, that have 30 spaces that I'm in really good touch with them just 5 minutes from there. So I hope that I can lock that deal down the road in the future. So that's, I guess I'm just a little bit, I know it doesn't make sense probably
I
what I'm
believe in you. I believe in you. Let's see what happens if we do this. All right. So what are the total expenses day one?
total expenses day one are at 53,000.
Okay. Any expense recovery?
No, I think they're paying for everything, and it's septic and city water.
Okay,
Septic
septic and
needs
city.
work, yeah, and it's tanks for each lot. So each lot have its own septic tank.
Okay. So that's a 59% expense ratio. You have septic and city. So I would say, 35% to 40% is probably accurate.
Yeah,
Let's just leave
I,
35% for now. And then in terms of your expense recovery, do you know how much the water bill is right now?
yeah. I'm actually looking at it and what I'm seeing here. So it says water. It says 15,000 under the expenses, and trash. It says almost 7,000.
Okay, so let's assume you'll collect both of those and get to about 20,000. So let's call it 25% expense recovery.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Your resident cost per month is going to be 674. It sounds like that's probably doable at stabilization in looks like 4 years, we were saying. What do you want to stable? How long do you think it'll take you to fill these homes?
So it's a seller financing that we're probably at 5 years. I'm, being very conservative, putting 2 homes per year, but it's probably more to make it more reasonable. I would want to shoot for 4 homes per year. I just know one home just got in there from this, from whatever. They just look on the Google and found a park. So someone just came in, but I think he raised rent, so he lost some. So that's why it's on 17. Yeah.
All right, let's just so yeah, 4.5 years or so, four and a quarter.
Yeah. Let's do
That's
4.
fine. We'll say four for now. Maybe you'll have
Okay.
a good year. All right, so
But that would
let's
be
do the rest
really
of these.
like I'm a lot more conservative, but yeah, I guess.
No,
Uh,
well, we can do 5 years to stabilization. That works. And then this might jack this up a bit more. So let's say 650. Maybe even higher. Like let's call it 675 because it's 5 years from now. I think you could probably accomplish that.
you think so? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know, right? But you're at 575 right now, right? And so in
And
three
if
years or in 5 years, if you're increasing 3% annually, it's saying that you're going to get to 667.
okay,
So
I would stay somewhere around there. Okay, let's say I would stay at 650. I'm always trying to be conservative and trying to keep it more on the current value, but I guess yeah, it's smart.
fair. I just
And
want to see
it's
something
actually
more
on a
like
62,000 expense. Sorry, so it's more on the yeah, it's on a higher level expense right now for some reason.
I'm just double checking to make sure that this is increasing at the right rip. K5. Yep. All right. Looks good to me. Say that again.
Yeah. I was saying that 62,000 is actual the total expenses they're currently reporting.
62.
62. Yeah.
All right. So 68% expense ratio, we drop that down to 35. Do you want to be more conservative there and call it 40, or are you good with 35%?
I think, I mean, I started with 40 in mine and kind of went after a while to like 37 and 45 and 35. But you can start with 40, I would say, let's be, or 38, something like that. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, that looks good. And then let's go 38. I don't want to
Let's
jack it
do,
up.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's all tenant on home gonna be so.
Cool. Okay. And then let's move from there to, are you doing this as a partnership or is this just all your cash?
So I am using my cash, but I am calculating as 12% return on my cash as well.
Okay. So you'd have a promote at 12%.
Yeah. And obviously it's my cash, but still I'm looking at it that way.
All right. And then post promote, do you have a split or
What does
post?
that mean? Sorry.
So sorry, post your equity hurdle. So if you're, when you say you're looking at a 12%, what do you mean?
Well, on cash on my money. I want to pay myself technically, or if I use someone else's money, it will be around 12%, I guess. Just kind of roughly what I'm looking at. Return on that money, that investment with CapEx and with down payment.
Okay. And then you want the splits to be the same regardless. So let's just maybe do this.
Yeah, I guess just leave no split because I'm kind of doing a little different model with only 12 to 15% kind of game, which kind of bring it up the same if you bring the split money at the end. So just keep it 12% right now, I guess. Or
Okay.
it's it up. I don't know if you, because you do maybe 7% and then you have the split. So, but it comes back to the same number. When I do it this way, I don't have the burden of, it's just straight up like that without splits or anything.
Totally. All right, cool. So let's just leave it for now and we'll just let's see what
Okay.
the returns are. And if you're able to accomplish 12% since you're paying yourself, it doesn't necessarily matter. But so
Mhm.
anyway, here's your acquisition date, 12/31/25, hold period 5 years, years to stabilize 5 years. What's the purchase price?
So that's I came up started at 8:30. And right now, I mean, there is another person there. I don't know. Again, I don't know if I should believe to the brokers or not. It's one of the bigger brokers, and they're just continuing coming up with hey, you said that at first I need to come up to 950. Now they're saying I need to be at 1 million. There's another group over there. I don't know if to believe them or not, but yeah, I'm at right now at 310 down payment and he's asking me to be at closer to the million. Yeah, around 1 million. So,
Okay, so let's put 1 million in there. And we'll work down or up from there. But right now, dude, if you can accomplish your business plan, that looks pretty good so far. Let's keep moving through this though. So you're paying $58,000 per physically occupied lot right now. This
mhm,
is saying that you can sell it for 60,000, or we can decide like what your sales price should be.
mhm.
$58,000 a lot, by the way, is a little bit
But,
high for, what your current lot rents are. Should be around 44, or maybe it doesn't have to be 44. That's a good deal. So just getting
mhm.
closer maybe to that 44 range. That's probably what you had previously, by the way. You said like 850 or something like that.
I was at 835, I think, or yeah,
Yeah,
830.
that seems more reasonable to me, but it sounds like he's drumming up competition or something like that. So, um, I don't know. Let's just say 1 million and we'll figure it out from there. And then you can probably sell for 70,000 a pad if you accomplish this, right?
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
let's look at it on a cap rate basis too. Going, mm, that's not a good going in cap rate.
Yeah. I got at 5.5, but I guess I don't know why mine is 5.5. I guess because I have a little less expenses on my um entrant. And I put 985 now as the purchase price. Not really a big deal, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a
That's
terrible cap rate.
Yeah. No, it's
Nice.
definitely. I mean, for my calculation, I'm negative like 40K first year. If I'm filling up two only, if I'm bringing only, sorry, if I'm bringing one home, I was so conservative, okay? So if I bring one home, in my calculation, I'm somewhere around 40, minus in a year in first
That's
year.
what I'm getting to, about $35,000 negative. So that's not good, man.
No, no. Yeah. So, I mean, how other groups do you think able to pull this through? I mean, what are they doing that we are not doing?
I can tell you, they are eating the loss. They have potentially other parks in the area. I don't know where this is located, but they have potentially other parks in the area that can absorb the loss during stabilization period. They have a balance sheet that will allow them to outlay capital in order to fill lots, so that in the meantime, while that capital is outgoing to work, like they don't need it to come back into their pocket in order to redeploy it. Maybe it's a private equity shop. I mean, this is a smaller park, so I doubt it. But my point is, like, even these smaller players like me, I might buy a 34 site park that has a loss, but it might be next to two other parks that are cash flowing well. So when I go to the bank and I say, "Hey, I'll just use this cash from this park to cover the shortfall in the meantime, and also to infill those lots," they're going to have much more confidence in that buyer because they've done it before in that market, and
Mm,
they probably have the economies of scale. I'm going through this right now with a bank.
mm,
They're going to finance one of my parks that is not cash flowing because I have a cash flowing park next door, and they see the vision. So that's
sure.
probably what's going on here. I don't know why there's so much competition for a three cap. Frankly, I could
Maybe
never
they
imagine.
line. Maybe they line, yeah. But he's saying there's one group and he's just keep pushing me the prices, and yeah, I don't know. What would be the number that you would feel comfortable getting into that? And I know obviously we always want to look into the low trend, but considering that it is a market, it's 50 minutes from Austin, it's a good market.
Yeah. Now I
And
know why it's a three cap.
yeah.
Um, it's probably like based on the sales price, right? Because you said it was a good market, so people are now like now I'm thinking private equity shop again, maybe like a middle market private equity shop, because you're
Mhm.
talking about a primary market. You're talking about a primary market with potential upside for infill. These look like lower lot rents to me for that market outside of Austin. 50 minutes is a little further than I would like, but
Mhm.
nonetheless, it could potentially, if it's closer to San Antonio or something like that, I don't know.
It's
But
no, no, yeah, it's on the other side, but
north, okay.
yeah.
All right. Like I don't know the market that well, but like look at your levered returns.
Hmm.
First of all, let's look at your holding period capex. We don't really have a ton in here, and you need to infill all those lots. You can
Hmm.
also sell those homes, and if you can get them for a good price, like maybe you're selling them for $0, so there's not a ton of holding period capex.
My hope was to hopefully fill half, like seven, just from bringing in other people and see if there is demand. In my market, I never saw people just bringing in home, but I guess in Texas, maybe a little bit different. And then, so in my thought, it's like, okay, I'm going to put 200,000 capex in general, and then hopefully the advertisement will bring good information. So I'll be able to fill half of them with bringing homes and half of them with hopefully people coming from the outside. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does. So what we haven't built into this 10-minute pro forma is basically, cost of infill, which exists in our like more complicated model, but we haven't built it into like some of the simpler models yet. I'll do that soon because I think there's a need for it, especially as cap rates or interest rates start to compress, and maybe it
Mhm,
becomes easier to do these types of deals and get infill done.
mhm,
But in the meantime, since we don't have that, we just need to estimate, here's what it's going to cost to put in a home. Here's what we're going to sell it for. So that's what I encourage you to do, is find out what the disparity between uh, the infill cost totally, like inclusive of the home, inclusive of, site prep and setup. I saw, and I asked this question to everyone at MHI, and the answer varied pretty widely. The best I heard was 55 a pad, and that was if someone built out an entire team that they had working for them that did this basically only, right? Like they just did infill. So he
mhm.
was able to bring it in-house and get it for 55. The high end and seemed to be the average was about 85. So
Wow.
that's pretty big disparity. You might be able to get it for cheaper down in Austin, using labor that isn't 100% legit. But I would say like you have to assume that you can then sell that home for above 75,000. Maybe you can in the Austin market. So now if you can't, say you can sell it for 60,000 a pad or something like that, just like bake in that 15 to $25,000 loss per pad and use that as your capex, and then maybe you're getting that back when you go to sell, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Um, on just based on NOI alone, because you're selling at like a six cap or something like that.
Yeah. And this
But
is more of an equity game probably than cash flow. Well, it will cash flow too as well, I guess, after 5 years of refinancing.
yeah,
Um,
it will cash flow. It'll for sure cash flow, but I don't know if at 25%. So well, I have holding period capex of 200. So let's play that game because I'm having fun with this. So let's
mhm,
say 17 homes to fill, right? So let's do 17, and then let's say you lose 15,000 on each home
mhm.
equals this times this.
And we want to fill 17, consider just because we've been conservative, you're saying? Um,
You said there's 17 to fill, right? 17 vacant.
yes, correct. I was thinking that because someone just came in with his own mobile home. I don't know if it's something that we should
Yeah,
consider.
no, it's possible, but I would just go like full boat and see what happens. So
Cool. Okay.
it's if you lose all that money, it's only $250,000 outlaid, right?
Mhm.
And so now you've created potentially, $70,000 of equity per home you've infilled.
Mhm.
So the difference, 70 minus 15 is 55,000. So 55,000 times 17 would be your profit on that development. So that sounds like a pretty good deal if you can sell it for 70K a pad.
Mhm.
And by the way, like if we do an exit cap calculation, because this feels like more of an exit cap market, maybe you can get it at a seven cap sales price or something like that. Um, you're looking pretty good in terms of IRR here. Now, maybe there's some inputs we haven't completely fleshed out yet, but it looks like we've gotten most of them.
Mhm.
75
I
financing
know.
fees two, 7.5% interest rate, amortization 30 years, maturity in 10, IO 0. And then,
Maturity in 5. So I did 5 years. Yeah.
okay, 5 years here. Got it.
And
Um,
yeah, I think it should be on a 30 years. Yeah. And
okay, so then that looks good, man. I mean, I
so
don't
what
see
would you
why you shouldn't
offer?
pursue this if you can get this math to work out for that 15 a pad.
Sure. So you would offer them the $1 million and take that, big. Well, we also have to look on the loss for the first year, which also need to be added. I don't know if you add it into the capex. I know the septics will need some work. The road will need some work. I mean, there's no signs. I mean, it will need work. It's a little bit in a rough shape, I think, but it's not too bad.
So let's add some year one capex of 50,000. That's already in there to take care of that stuff. And now all of us, you're clipping a negative 10% cash on cash return year one. But at stabilization, you'll slowly get up to 32%. If we look at the pro forma here and we dig in a little bit deeper to see like how your cash on cash trends over time, you can
Mhm.
see that, in year three you'll go positive and then it gets really nice. So
Yeah. So would you offer that number for them? I mean, would you maybe try to play with? I know the down payment was really important to him, and then obviously the sell price, he didn't care about the 5 years or 3 years, whatever. So I don't know if there's any ideas
is
for
this
you.
seller finance?
It is, yeah. That's what.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
I'm
Yeah, because I
sorry.
yeah,
I
because
it's
I,
a
ke- I keep going
4%.
back to the you keep going back to this down payment. I'm like, what the fuck? The bank doesn't care, or
Yeah,
the seller doesn't care what you pay the bank.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
now that makes sense.
So it's on 310, I think, from what I last offer, and then they tell me you need to come up to the million if you want to have a chance. So so it's like I'm at 4%, and that's what I offered. And 310, the remaining is gonna be, let's see.
You're at 4% interest.
Yeah, I offered
Oh,
4.
okay. Well, let's do that, and that changes the equation here, right? So now you're gonna get to you're gonna get to positive year two as long as you fill in three homes by the end of year one.
hmm Oh, okay. And just so I note, because by your HUD user website, the 2 bedroom is what you go by, right? Or
Typically, yeah, unless you got like a lot of three twos,
yeah,
then
the two
yeah, then I would
bedroom.
maybe take a blend.
Yeah, so the two bedroom is 1,135 according to 2024. It was in
Perfect.
2023, 957. So it had a nice jump from 2023 to 2024.
Sounds like this market's up and coming then.
Yeah, I that's what I feel like. Yeah, definitely.
All right, so what I would do is I would look at some comps and see if some other parks have traded for anything close to 60,000 per occupied pad.
Hmm.
And if not, like start thinking about putting more of a down payment on the seller financing and just coming down in price.
Mm, okay. All right. Oh, so okay. So the first step will be, and where would you get those comps potentially?
I would either get them on Crexy. You could probably, I mean, there's a lot of places. Crexy generally has like local sales
Here.
comps. I would also talk to brokers
Mhm.
in the area and try and get like local sales. You can go on the typically the what's it called? I'm trying to I had so many data providers at Brookfield. It's been a while since I've been able to grab comps without like massive paid platforms. So let me find out for you and we can talk about it on group. But what I would say is try and get them down to 50 a pad because that makes a lot more sense to me given the 100x rule here. I would pay at most maybe 55. But if it's a massively competitive market, if there's truly other people who are bidding on this, then maybe just get it under contract and retrade later if you can.
Okay. So you would offer the $1 million and then maybe later on would
Yeah,
play
but like I mean, we could do this now real quick just so we understand. I don't want to put you in a position where you bid on something that
is not exist.
exactly. So let me do this. One second. Let's go to Landglide. I'm I assume you don't want to. Is there a broker involved? So there's other bids, so it's not like it's a big deal if you tell us where this is, right?
I prefer not to if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. Do you have a town? Is there a town we can go to so we can?
I
All
mean,
right,
we
this
can.
this is what I would do if I were you. Okay, I would go to Landglide. I'd get it. It's like $10 a month, super cheap. Or I
Sure.
would go to Maps first because I just like the f functionality on Maps, and then I would go to Austin, Texas, and then from there I would go north or south of the city wherever it is. Like let's say it's here, and then I would zoom in to this area and I would go mobile home parks.
Hmm.
And then I would find all the mobile home parks and I'd map them. And it looks like there's one here. Okay, they're all out here, right? So I would start marking all of these mobile home parks. And
Hmm.
then I would go individually into Landglide and I would look them up. So let's just do one as an example. Let's do Pecan Branch. Looks nice. And
Hmm.
let's do copy this address, go to Landglide, and then drop that in, press enter, and see if we can get this up. Here's Pecan Branch. And when it loads, hopefully soon, it'll give me the plot. I've got so many tabs open, I think it's just slow. All right, there you go. That's Pecan Branch, I think. Sun Communities. Okay, so
There
Sun
you go.
Communities owns this one, which means it's a hell of a market. Let's go to county. And this will open the public access. And then typically we're going to be able to see what the last sale price was sometimes, most of the time. I'm not seeing it. This is the assessed values, which is different than the sales price. It might be
Mm.
on Landglide, just like right in our face. We missed it. Hold on. Sometimes these guys are really good at hiding the sales value through um, like holding companies and just selling the entities themselves. So it
Uh,
might be difficult to find the actual,
the actually comps per site.
yeah.
I wonder if I can, if I'll ask the current broker, I mean, is it maybe he can, I don't
No,
know.
that's not a bad. If there's a broker involved, you should ask, hey, like, what are the local comps that have sold that have traded recently,
Okay.
uh, and see what he says. But typically, and there might be other parks in the area. We just chose a bad one,
Sure.
where it'll show you what like the sale price was and when it sold for, and that's going to be a good indication of like where the market's headed. What was that? What cap rate did that trade at, and why? Is this all of a sudden a hot market? Are you maybe overpaying because other people are like flocking to it? Is it worth the hype? Like, is there significant rent growth? And if it is, great, then go for it. And if you have confidence that you can infill these homes and that rents are going in the direction that you need them to basically make your money back when you go to sell. Also, look at single family home comps in the area. See what single family homes are selling for. Compare that to the national average, because if you can, if they're over the national average, typically you're going to be able to find buyers for these homes too, which is important. So I would just, do all those things, make sure you have a clear picture of the market itself and what mobile home parks are trading for there. So you're not setting support for other people. You don't want to be doing
Yeah,
that.
that's what I'm
But
thinking. And I'll
yeah,
point the sales price is 325. So that's the sales price there.
this one.
No, I'm looking on the median home sales price.
Oh, 325. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Actually, no, that might be below the market average. Isn't it 400 now? Let's take
What
a look.
you're talking about the lot? What are you talking about? Sorry.
The national single family home
Oh, the
price.
national one. That's a good question. It's probably 400 or so, so it's below.
Yeah, so that's not a great sign, but it's still okay. So Q1 2025 median sales price was 402. So it's not lagging that far behind. So it looks like the typical home is valued at 367 on Zillow as of May 31st.
Okay, so
It's not too far from the median. I think you should be fine.
Okay,
Anyway, like you just want to look for market indicators that say that this is a growing market.
sure.
Um,
Oh,
and I
it's
mean, if it's like this,
yeah. No, it's a little bit less further than being because this is literally Austin. I considered, but I
yeah,
would
Austin's right there. Yeah, it's probably whatever. I'm not going to dig into your deal when you get it under contract. Um, you know,
we can.
it's probably between Fort Worth and Austin.
It's around Temple. I would say before Temple. So
Okay, that's not too far.
yeah.
All right, man. Listen,
All
I'm gonna
right.
let you go, but
All
it
right,
was great
guys.
talking to you. All right. Have a
Awesome.
good one,
Thank you
man.
so much.
Yeah, of course.